In order to do problems in linear harmonic oscillator, we have to first familiarize ourselves with the Gaussian integrals. Why is this required? Because if you look at the wave function of a harmonic oscillator, you can see that there is a term e raised to minus x square term. And this e raised to minus x square term is a Gaussian function. Okay. So when we calculate expectation value of different physical quantities uh, using these linear harmonic oscillator wave functions, inside the integral you will be having this Gaussian functions. So integrals involving Gaussian functions are generally called Gaussian integrals. So first we have to learn how to evaluate Gaussian integrals. And the idea of Gaussian integrals are connected to gamma function. So let me start with a discussion of gamma function and Gaussian integrals. After that we will go over to the calculation of different expectation values using linear harmonic oscillator wave functions. Okay. So first let me define gamma function. I would like to define it in two ways. So let me call it in fact these two definitions are the same. Let me just differentiate these two forms, that's all. Okay, two different forms. So it is like this: gamma set, this notation, this is a symbol for gamma, capital letter gamma in Greek alphabet. So gamma set is equals integral 0 to infinity e raised to minus u raised to z minus 1 d, with the condition that real part of z is greater than 0. Z can be any complex number with the restriction that real part of z is greater than 0. And this condition is required for the evaluation of this integral for the finite value of this integral. Okay. So this is the one form of gamma function. We can have a slightly different form, slightly changed form. Let me use a change of variable. Put u is equal to t square. Okay, so this gives du will be 2t dt. Okay, the limits will not change from 0 to when u is varies from 0 to infinity, t also varies from 0 to infinity. So the limits are the same. So let us see how this function changes. U becomes t square, so we have e raised to minus t square, and here instead of u we put t square, then the power becomes 2z minus 2, right? Z minus 1 should be multiplied with 2, so 2z minus 2, and du is 2t dt. Okay, so this 2 I can take outside. Integral 0 to infinity e raised to minus t square t raised to, and there is one t here. See here you have one t here, and you multiply this with this t raised to 2z minus 2. So then the total power will be 2z minus 2 plus 1. Okay, that is t raised to 2z minus 1. So we have 2z minus 1 here dt here. Okay, so this is a second form of gamma function. So let me just say, even though it is the same definition, let me use a different since it's a different form, let me call it definition 2. So gamma set is 2 times 0 to infinity. And now I can change from t to u because it's an integrating variable. We are doing a definite integral. So instead of t, let me use simply u. It's a dummy variable, right? So e raised to minus u square u raised to 2z minus 1 d. with the condition that real part of z is greater than 0. Okay, so these two equations, let me call the first one equation 1 and the second one equation 2. Okay, so these two define um, these are the two forms of gamma functions. Okay, now you can see that the second form here in this particular definition, you have e raised to minus u square. This e raised to minus u square is a Gaussian function. Okay, it's there in the first form also, but when we do a change of variable, it becomes more evident. So it's very clear that this gamma function is defined in terms of integrals involving Gaussian functions. Okay. Now let us look at some properties of gamma functions. Okay, so let us consider different properties. We will look at only a few properties here. Now the first important property of gamma function is this: gamma z plus 1 is z times gamma z. Now this can be very easily expressed. Let us look at the first definition, first form of gamma function. So gamma z is this integral, right? Now let us calculate what is gamma z plus 1. Now when you change z to z plus 1, on the right hand side you get u raised to z plus 1 minus 1, that is u raised to z, right? Okay, so let me evaluate that. So gamma z plus 1, I am starting with the definition of 1. So integral 0 to infinity e raised to minus u raised to z minus 1 in the original in gamma z. So gamma z plus 1 will be z plus 1 minus 1, that is u raised to z d. Okay, now let us integrate this by integration by parts. So I am choosing u raised to z as the first function and e raised to minus u as the second function. So what you get is the first function into integral of the second function, which is minus e raised to minus u, correct? Within the limits 0 to infinity minus integral, again integral from 0 to infinity, integral of the second function into derivative of the first function with respect to z, right? So z u raised to z minus 1 d. Sorry, with respect to u, not with respect to z. We are differentiating this function with respect to u. Okay. So now we put the limits here. In this first term, when you put the upper limit, u raised to e, we get e raised to minus infinity, which is 0. Okay, so e raised to minus infinity, e raised to minus u is there, u raised to z is there. So when you put infinity, this u raised to z part will increase, but e raised to minus u part will decrease, and we know that the exponential function varies faster than this polynomial, right? Therefore, e raised to minus u goes to 0, e raised to minus infinity it tends to it goes to 0, e raised to minus infinity is 0. So this function goes to 0 faster than this function goes to infinity. So at upper limit, this is a faster changing function, e raised to minus u. So we get e raised to minus infinity, which goes to 0. Okay, in the lower limit, e raised to 0 is 1, but u raised to z goes to 0. That means this term will go to 0 at the boundary. And what about the second integral? You can take this minus sign outside, so minus of minus will be plus. This integration is in terms of u, so you can take this z also outside. So what you get is z times integral 0 to infinity e raised to minus u raised to z minus 1 d. And what is this? Z times, and this integral is nothing but gamma z. Okay, so we have established the result that gamma z plus 1 is equal to gamma z. So that's the first property of gamma function. Now let us consider a second property. If n is an integer, then gamma n is equal to n minus 1 factorial. Okay, now we should remember that this gamma function is defined for a complex number set. It can be, z can be a complex number with the condition that real part of z should be greater than 0. Now the question is, if z is an integer, if it's a complex number, it can also be an integer. So if real part of z is greater than 0, it should be a positive integer, right? Then this result is there, gamma n is equal to n minus 1 factorial. Let us see how we can establish this. Okay, let us start like this. Gamma n you can write as gamma n minus 1 plus 1. Okay, let us look at the previous result. Gamma z plus 1, gamma z plus 1 is equal to z times gamma z. Okay, so now instead of you z, if you have n minus 1, gamma n minus 1 plus 1, you can write as n minus 1 gamma n minus 1, right? Now this is equal to gamma n minus 1, again you can write as gamma n minus 2 plus 1. So it goes like this, n minus 1 into n minus 2 gamma n minus 2. So this can go on, okay, so that we establish this result, n minus 1 into n minus 2 into n minus 3 etc. up to 1 gamma 1. Okay, now what is gamma 1? Look at the first form of gamma function. Okay, so it is gamma 1, put z is equal to 1, so you have integral 0 to infinity e raised to minus u raised to z minus 1. Now z is 1, okay, so z minus 1 is 0, so u raised to 0 is 1, so this is gamma 1. This can be readily evaluated. E raised to minus u, the integral is minus e raised to minus u from 0 to infinity. E raised to minus infinity goes to 0, minus e raised to 0 is 1, so there is a minus of minus, which is plus 1. So gamma 1 is 1. Okay, so we have got this result that gamma n is equal to n minus 1, n minus 2, n minus 3 etc. up to 1. So this is nothing but n minus 1 factorial. So gamma n is equal to n minus 1 factorial. Now from this we have got a corollary, gamma 1 is equal to 0 factorial. Right, n minus 1 factorial, which is 0 factorial. And we have already established in the previous step that gamma 1 is equal to 1, which shows that, that means by definition 0 factorial, this implies that 0 factorial is defined as 1. 0 factorial is taken as 1. Okay, so this is one way to show that 0 factorial is 1. So this is one property of a gamma function. Gamma, if n is an integer, then gamma n is equal to n minus 1 factorial. Okay, now let us go to a third property, which is a very important result as far as our integrals in linear harmonic oscillator wave functions are concerned, or Gaussian integrals are concerned. It is this result, gamma half is equal to root pi. Let us try to evaluate this, show this. There is a very interesting trick to prove this. Okay, first of all, what is gamma half? Now this time I will use the second form of gamma function, second definition of gamma function. Here, suppose if you put half, z is equal to half, then look at this polynomial part, u raised to 2z minus 1. If you put z is equal to half, 2 into half is 1, 1 minus 1 is 0. So u raised to 0 is 1. So that part will go. Okay. So what you get is gamma half from the second definition is 2 times integral 0 to infinity e raised to minus u square d. Here I have used equation 2. Second definition of second form of gamma function. Let me rewrite this as, you can see that the integrand is an even function. So we can rewrite this as integral minus infinity to plus infinity e raised to minus u square d. You can see that this is an integral involving Gaussian function. E raised to minus u square is a Gaussian function. So this is clearly a Gaussian integral. Okay, so gamma half is connected to a Gaussian integral directly. And we have to show that this is root pi. Its value is root pi. So let us see how this can be done. Now there is a very famous technique for proving this, and this is usually attributed to the mathematician Poisson, okay, and physicist Poisson. So gamma half, let us say, yeah, let us consider, let us rewrite this in terms of variable x, e raised to minus x square dx. Now if I rewrite again gamma half in terms of the variable y, e raised to minus y square dy. Naturally these are all dummy variables, so we can do this. Now let me multiply these two terms. So we have gamma half into gamma half is, so one I am writing in terms of x, the other I am writing in terms of y. So integral, there are two integrals, e raised to minus x square into e raised to minus y square, which I can combine as e raised to minus x square plus y square. Then you have dx dy. Now if you look at this integral, it's a two-dimensional integral, right? Where we are integrating over the xy plane. It's an area integral. We are integrating over the xy plane. Okay. Now suppose so this is our domain of integration, xy plane. We are integrating over the entire xy plane. Now suppose we change this area integral into the variables polar, using polar coordinates. Okay, so instead of xy coordinates, suppose I am using the coordinates, this radial distance r, which varies from 0 to infinity. This is the origin, right? And this polar angle theta, which varies from which is measured from the x-axis, so it varies from 0 to 2 pi. Okay, so if I change to the polar coordinates r and theta, what is the change in this expression? So we can say gamma half into gamma half is equal to, first of all, the limits will change to so from 0 to infinity, the limit of r, and 0 to 2 pi, the limit of theta, e raised to minus x square plus y square is nothing but r square. Now instead of dx dy, we have area element in terms of r and theta, which is r dr d theta. Okay, the area element in the r theta plane. You can establish that. You take an area element, one side will be dr, the other side will be r d theta, okay, of the area element. Along the see, if you take an area element here, okay, along the direction of increase of r, this part is dr, and this side will be, when there is a change in angle by theta, the change in that side, the change in length will be r d theta. So this patch is dr into r d theta, or r dr d theta. So let us do this integration. So this is integral over pi, you can directly do integral 0 to 2 pi d theta. is nothing but 2 pi. The remaining thing is 0 to infinity e raised to minus r square r dr. Now this can be evaluated if you make a change of variable. Put r square is equal to u. Then 2r differentiating both sides, 2r dr is equal to, or taking differentials on both sides, 2r dr is equal to d. Okay. Now you can borrow a 2 from here. So this part will be 2r dr. To r dr we can add the 2 from the outside. So this you can rewrite as pi into integral 0 to infinity e raised to minus r square becomes u, and 2r dr becomes simply d. Now what is this term? This term is nothing but this integral. This we have done just before. This is nothing but 1. This is nothing but gamma 1. So this is 1. Okay. So we get pi. So gamma half into gamma half is equal to pi, which means gamma half is equal to square root of pi. Okay, so we have established this result. Gamma half is equal to root pi. So let us let me add a corollary, or let us say an additional result here. Let us say gamma 3 by 2. How do we evaluate? Gamma 3 by 2 you can write as gamma half plus 1. So gamma z plus 1 is z times gamma z. That result is true for both integer and non-integer values of z. So this you can write as gamma half plus 1 is half gamma half. But gamma half is root pi. So this is half times root pi. So in this way you can evaluate gamma 3 by 2, gamma 5 by 2, gamma 7 by 2, etc. Okay. So this gamma half and gamma 3 by 2, gamma 5 by 2, etc. we are definitely connected with Gaussian integrals. Okay. Okay. So these are the 3 properties of gamma function that are useful to us. Now let us change over to evaluation of some Gaussian integrals. Okay, so let me start here. So what are the Gaussian integrals that are useful to us in the discussion of a harmonic oscillator? So I will consider only a few of them. One integration that we are interested in, that we have already established, is this one: minus infinity to plus infinity e raised to minus x square dx. This is nothing but gamma half, and this we have proved to be root pi. Okay. Now second, a related quantity, minus infinity to plus infinity e raised to minus ax square dx. This is root pi by a. Okay, let us see how we can establish this. Okay, let me write it here. Let me try to prove it here. So what we try to do is, when this type of an integral comes, what we try to do is, let us express, put ax square is equal to u square. Okay, then x square is equal to u square by a, or x is equal to u by root a, dx is equal to du by root a. Therefore, this integral minus infinity to plus infinity e raised to minus ax square dx, this is equal to integral, the limits will be the same, right? E raised to minus u square, and ax square is equal to u square, right? Dx is nothing but du by root a. Now you can take root a outside, so 1 by root a integral minus infinity to plus infinity e raised to minus u square du. What is that? e raised to minus u square du is this one gamma half. Okay, it is nothing but root pi. Okay, so what you get here is 1 by root a into root pi, that is root pi by a. So that is this result. Uh, the second integral that I have written here. E raised to minus ax square dx is equal to root pi by a. Now the third is again a modification of this result. E raised to minus ax square plus bx, this integral. So this is just like e raised to minus ax square into e raised to bx, right? That is, along with this Gaussian function e raised to minus ax square, you have another exponential e raised to bx. So you can combine the two exponential like e raised to minus ax square and e raised to bx. This you can show that this is equal to e raised to b square by 4a into root of pi by a. See, as far as some of the expectation values involving linear harmonic oscillator wave functions, only this up to this second term is needed for us. Okay, but let us since we are familiarizing ourselves with some Gaussian integrals, let us spend some more time with Gaussian integrals and see some of the basic results. So this is a very important, useful result. When you multiply a Gaussian function, in the integrand, if you have a Gaussian function as well as another exponential e raised to bx, then you can combine them and you can establish this result. Let us quickly see how we can do this. Again, I am doing it on the right side. Okay, let me show it here. Okay, your total power is what? Minus ax square plus bx, right? This is the power. So I am taking the power term. So see, you have e raised to minus ax square plus bx. So I am taking the just the power term e raised to okay, minus ax square plus bx. Now what I am going to do is, if it is e raised to minus x square, something like that, if it is like e raised to minus u square du, okay, if it's a perfect square, only the Gaussian function, then the answer is root pi. So I am trying to write this as a perfect square, okay, to establish only the Gaussian function there. Okay, because now this extra term bx is there, so let me try to write this as a perfect square. So this is equal to, let me take a minus a outside. So we have x square minus b by a into x. How do we make this as a perfect square, the term in the bracket? So what you can do is, this is like if it is a minus b whole square, there is an a square term, and this is the 2ab term, minus 2ab term, and there should be a b square term also. What should be the b square term? You take already this is a square, okay, so the square root a is there. So this b by a, okay, b by a is the 2ab term. So what you have to do is, you take the half of this part b by 2a and take the square of that one, b square by 4a square. You add and subtract them, subtract it to this term. So what you get is x square minus b by a into x. So what you are doing is, take the coefficient of x, take the half of it, so b by 2a, and take the square of that, add and subtract it. So we have plus b square by 4a square, b by 2a whole square, b square by 4a square minus b square by 4a square. So there is no change in the term. I have added and subtracted the same term. Now this is minus a. What is the first three terms? X minus b by a whole square, right? X minus b by a whole square, a square, x square minus, sorry, b by 2a, x minus b by 2a whole square. Yeah, a square minus 2ab, minus 2ab is 2 will cancel, b by a into x, plus b square. B square is b square by 4a square, b square term, right? So this is it. Now we have a minus sign here, b square by 4a square. This is correct? Okay. Let us multiply the two terms with minus a. So first term is minus a into x minus b by 2a whole square. Then minus a into minus b square by 4a square. We have plus b square by 4a. Okay. So yeah. So this integral minus infinity to plus infinity e raised to minus ax square plus bx. Okay, this integral you can write as now we have established that power, one part as a perfect square and an extra part, right? So this I can write as integral e raised to minus a into x minus b by 2a whole square plus b square by 4a dx. Now here so you can write this integral as two exponentials. One is e raised to minus a x minus b by 2a whole square into e raised to b square by 4a, right? That e raised to b square by 4a does not contain any x term, so it is independent of this integration, so I can take it outside. So we have e raised to b square by 4a integral e raised to minus a into x minus b by 2a whole square dx. Okay, now we need to evaluate this integral. In order to evaluate this integral, now this is just like the previous integral that we have done. So what we have to do is put this x minus b by 2a equal to u. Okay, yeah, x minus b by 2a equal to u. Then what is dx? Dx is nothing but d. So this integration becomes minus infinity to this constant term is there. That integral becomes minus e raised to minus a u square d. And what is the result here? This is nothing but root pi by a. This we have established in the previous step. E raised to minus a u square d is root pi by a. So we have an e raised to b square by 4a here, and this integral is evaluated as root pi by a. So what is the entire this integral? This integral can be expressed as e raised to b square by 4a into root pi by a. Okay. So this I have written down here. Once we establish this, there is another useful result. You can show that this in e raised to minus ax square, okay, e raised to, okay, one more point I want to notice is this argument that the way we have proved it also shows that even if it is see here, even if it is x minus b by 2a or x plus b by 2a is not important. Okay, whether it is x minus b by 2a or x plus b by 2a, your answer will be the same. Okay, here whether we get x minus or plus, your answer will be the same. It means that now it is plus here, that's why we get you have take a minus a outside, that's why we get x minus b by 2a whole square here. Suppose it is minus here, when you take minus a outside, there will be plus here. Okay, then following the same argument, you will end up with x e raised to minus a into x plus b by 2a whole square, which is also root pi by a. Okay, so now we can get a slightly more general expression here. Maybe we can modify this. I can say that e raised to minus ax square plus or minus bx is equal to um, okay, e raised to b square by 4a root pi by a. And as before, this okay, I said that yeah. So when I introduce this constant a, the only condition is that the real part of a should be greater than 0. Maybe I should write it here. It can be a complex number with a real part of a greater than 0. And when we come here also, this condition is the real part of a is greater than 0, but b can be any complex number. Okay. Okay, now let us come to this one. Let me say, let me write this. This is a slightly different version of the equation 3, e raised to I kx dx. Maybe plus or minus I kx dx. So you have a Gaussian function e raised to minus ax square, and you have a complex exponential here e raised to plus or minus I kx dx. Okay, you can readily see that you can combine these two exponentials as e raised to minus ax square plus or minus I kx dx, and you can use this formula. Only thing is that now the condition here is that k should be real. If k is real, yeah, ik can be complex, but remember from the previous result that b can be any complex number without any restriction. Okay, so here k should be real. Okay, so if we combine these two, what is b now? B is nothing but ik. So if we can simply substitute for b here from the previous expression, so b square becomes b is ik from comparing these two integrals. So e raised to minus k square, ik square will be, I square is minus 1. Okay, so we have e raised to minus k square by 4a root pi by a. Again with the condition that real part of a is greater than 0 and k is real. K should be real. There is something important in this result, because when you look at the left hand side, what is this integral? This integral is nothing but e raised to minus ax square e raised to plus or minus I kx dx. This is nothing but the Fourier transform of e raised to minus ax square. Okay, Fourier transform of e raised to minus ax square. To find Fourier transform, you multiply with this exponential factor e raised to plus or minus I kx dx. Okay, if we multiply with e raised to I kx, it's called Fourier transform. If it is e raised to minus I kx, one is for Fourier transform, the other is for inverse Fourier transform. That's all. So this result shows that Fourier transform of a Gaussian function e raised to minus ax square, okay, is equal to, what do you end up with? E raised to minus k square by 4a. This is again a Gaussian function in the variable k. Okay, so you start with the Gaussian function e raised to minus ax square in the variable x. We say that in the x domain. Okay, from the x domain you do a Fourier transform, okay, of a Gaussian function in x, and you get another Gaussian function in the k domain, in the variable k. So this result shows that Fourier transform of a Gaussian function is another Gaussian function. Okay, that is also very important result. And as an addition to this integral, this result is also important. You have this Gaussian integral. Suppose you multiply with cos kx and integrate. Okay. Immediately there is a technique here. You can show that this cos kx is a real part of e raised to I kx, e raised to plus or minus I kx, right? Cos kx is a real part of e raised to plus or minus I kx. Therefore, the result of this integral is the real part of this result, and this result is again real. So this integral is also equal to e raised to minus k square by 4a root pi. It's real part of a greater than 0 and k is real. Okay. So here what we see is that these are some basic Gaussian integrals. Here you have a Gaussian integral. with pi, and here there is a change of variable, some extra constant a, which can be any complex number with the real part of a greater than 0, and again you will get root pi by a. Here along with the Gaussian function you have another exponential e raised to plus or minus bx, and this is the result. And here you have a complex exponential, which is basically the Fourier transform of Gaussian function, and you get this. Here Gaussian function is multiplied with a trigonometric function cos kx, and you can evaluate it using the same technique of the exponential. Okay, these are some basic Gaussian functions, Gaussian integrals, and this is connected to gamma function. You can see that, right? Now, okay. Now, in order to evaluate, now we are going back to the linear harmonic oscillator problem. So, in order to evaluate some expectations value involving linear harmonic oscillator wave functions, we will need this particular result, integral e raised to minus ax square dx is equal to root pi by a, and also we will need this second form of, look at the second definition of gamma function. Gamma z is 2 times 0 to infinity e raised to minus u square u raised to 2z minus 1 t, because integrals involving linear harmonic oscillator wave functions will have this type of a Gaussian term. Okay, Gaussian function will be there, and also we will use this particular result. Gamma half is root pi, and gamma 3 by 2 you can evaluate through gamma half using this idea. Gamma z plus 1 is equal to z times gamma z, that is half times root pi. Okay, these results we will be requiring in the evaluation of these harmonic oscillator wave functions. Okay, I am stopping now. Let us continue with problems involving harmonic oscillator wave functions.